This program is brought to you by the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, promoting political advocacy, education, and the ethical conduct of its members nationwide.
Hi, I'm Annette from Advisor Marketing Practices, and it's my pleasure to be with you today. I'm the author of The $1 Million Marketing System, The 7 Principles of Becoming a Millionaire for Life, as well as 3 different products for marketing to women: Growing Your Business Working with Affluent Women, The Marketing Guide for Affluent Women, and If Only I Had Known, which is Life Transition Planning for Affluent Women. And what I'm going to share with you today are some of the inside strategies to help you be successful in the women's market. We're going to talk about insider secrets for marketing to the affluent women niche market. All materials, forms, and intellectual property in this course are copywritten by themillionaireseries.com, and all international copyrights are reserved. So what you're going to learn today, the first thing we're going to talk about is why you should niche market. Then we're going to talk about the affluent niche market process, how to choose the best affluent women market for you, setting niche marketing goals, and then strategies to effectively connect with affluent women. So let's begin with why niche market. The first reason is because it's simpler. When you have a niche market, they have similar needs, so it's so much easier to provide them solutions to their challenges. It's cheaper. When you have a niche market, you can leverage your time both in prospecting as well as in connecting and ultimately closing. You can systematize and automate the process. You can leverage your time, as I just mentioned earlier, through workshops. And it's more profitable. So there are a lot of reasons why you should niche market. The one thing you need to be aware of when you do niche market is you want to look at 1 or 2 niche markets, and you want to make sure that it's one that you really enjoy working with. Because once you dive deep into it, you're going to have a lot of people coming to you. You want to make sure it's the right niche market for you. The next thing we're going to discuss is the affluent niche marketing process. The first step is to determine your passion. The second step is to identify your favorite clients. The third step is to determine your personality profile. The fourth step is to identify your client's personality profile. The fifth is the Ask, Learn, Riches questionnaire process, where you're going to find out everything you can about your niche market. So let's dive a little deeper into this process. The first process, as I mentioned, is to determine your passion. When are you at your best? When are you motivated and inspired? When do you forget about time? The second process is to identify your favorite clients, the ones you love working with. You know, the ones that you have a meeting with and you can't wait to get to see them. And the first part of the meeting, you're not even talking about finances. You're talking about them and what they're doing and how they're doing. It's amazing what happens when you identify who you're meant to serve and then you start serving them. So the first step is you want to create an Excel spreadsheet. And on that spreadsheet, you're going to rank your clients, the most favorite to the least favorite. Now, what you might find in the process is some of those least favorite clients that are really challenging to deal with, you may end up helping them find a new advisor, because once you start working with people you love working with, you don't want to be working with people you don't enjoy working with. You then want to identify commonalities. What does this group have in common? It could be the church they attend, the functions they go to, the associations they're at, how they feel about certain topics. What you want to make sure of is you don't want to have a group that's too narrow. And a lot of times what you'll find is in your niche market there'll be a lot of similarities, but there'll also be some areas in which they're vastly different. The third step is to determine your personality profile. So we'll go over these real briefly so you can identify which one you are. The first is a doer. You make quick decisions and you're very interested in the bottom line. You don't like people wasting your time. The second is an expressive. Expressives love to talk and they're never without words. and amiable. They just want to be your friend. And an amiable will avoid a confrontation at any cost. So if you do find that you're attracted to amiable people, you just want to make sure that they can make a decision and that they are going to ultimately make a decision as far as if they're going to do work with you. Because they may want to do work with you, but if they're amiable, they may be very concerned about hurting their current advisor's feelings, even though they don't want to work with that person. So it's something you need to take into consideration if you are going to work with amiable people. And a lot of women are amiable, which we'll dive into a little deeper. And then the last personality profile is an analytical personality profile. These people love the numbers, they want to analyze everything, and they're always wanting more data. The key with analytics is you've got to make sure that you give them a certain amount of information and then they can make a decision, because you could continue analyzing data for the rest of their lives if you don't put some parameters around it. The fourth step is to identify your client's personality profile. You want to review your spreadsheet, identify your favorite client's personality, and once you start going through this, you'll immediately be able to see what their personality is. Interestingly enough, a lot of women, even though they might be amiable, they're going to be a combination. So they might be an amiable expressive, or they might even be an amiable driver. If you are working with driver women, which are typically non-traditional women, you'll find that they are less amiable than, say, a traditional woman that's a homemaker or a wife. And we're going to dive more into the personalities in a minute. You want to confirm you're compatible with them. Because if you are, say, an amiable analytic and you're working with an expressive driver, it's not going to be a fun match. Now, my personality is an expressive driver. I work with a lot of traditional women, which is typically not an ideal match. But what I do is I find an advocate, a family member, a close friend that can attend the meetings that can help them make a decision. Because what you'll find sometimes with people who are amiable analytics, they'll have 17 meetings with you and still not have made a decision. So for a personality like mine, I don't have a problem having meetings to make sure they understand the information, but we got to get to the point where they make a decision. And so you got to make sure you're compatible with that. I have found by having an advocate in those meetings, it helps immensely. The fifth step is the Ask, Learn, Riches questionnaire process. This is where you identify your clients and prospects and match your ideal client profile to them. So the goal of all of this is to figure out what are the common traits so that you can tell anyone you meet with, what are you looking for in a client, who do you serve? You want to determine where do they congregate, where do they go? Again, the churches, the charities, what radio stations do they listen to? How do they think? I'm always interested in finding how they think, both politically as well as their religion, because that tells you a lot about how they make investment decisions. Somebody that's more conservative, especially extremely conservative, may be more fearful of what's going on, whereas sometimes people that are a little more liberal oftentimes aren't at all concerned. And the reality of it is probably somewhere in between, but you've got to be aware of that, because as an advisor, you don't want to be too extreme yourself so that you're not getting clients that potentially could give you business to say, I don't want to work with this advisor, because they don't have the flexibility. So it's really important that even if you have strong beliefs, you have the ability to listen to what your clients' beliefs are, their values, and be able to marry the two. Now, sometimes the values are way off from what yours are. And if that's the case, then I would encourage you to just recommend they find a new advisor. Because if you're extremely conservative and they're really liberal, it can be a very hard match. Interestingly enough, my clients, I have both extremes. And what I have found is that's worked very well for me. I'm more moderate, but what I find has been very effective is to ask questions. So when you hear a person say, I would never vote for that person, they're blah, 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 and you say, well, why do you feel that way? Can you tell me more? Interestingly enough, when you hear it from both ends, a lot of times as you peel away the layers of their belief that either the Democrats are wrong or the Republicans are wrong, at the core level, their concerns are very similar. And it's just more of what they have been raised to believe than the fact that they're really that far off. So just ask the questions. Now, if obviously you get down to where you're asking questions and you say, this person has beliefs that I could never even endorse, I don't believe in, then it's probably not best suited. But before you make that judgment call, just ask enough questions that you're sure of that. You then want to determine who's in front of your ideal client. Once you know who's in front of your ideal client, it literally can transform your business. And the reason it can transform your business is because those can then become your reciprocal referral partners, who are then referring to you and you're referring to them. It's one of the easiest ways to dramatically increase your business. You then want to set up interviews with them, both the clients, the prospects, the centers of influence, and the reciprocal referral relationship partners, who are the people that are in front of your ideal client. Once you start talking with them and you start collaborating and learning what their goals and their concerns are, it can have a dramatic impact on your business because you become the go-to person. So all of a sudden, Sally's talking about her friend who's widowed, and she hears the word widowed, and she says, you have got to go talk to John. He is a specialist in this area. He knows what he's doing. Just go talk to him before you make a decision. And before you know it, you have a new client. The next step is to determine their immediate needs and burning desires. When you know your niche market's burning desires and immediate needs, you don't need to know anything else because you're going to know what is going to motivate them to take action. One of my large clients, we were having a meeting in the attorney's office. Now, I had worked with these people for a very long time. They did not have an adequate plan. They did not have adequate insurance. We knew they needed $2 million worth of coverage. We also knew that the cost of the coverage was going to be $50,000 per million. So in that meeting, the husband said, well, I don't have $50,000 laying around to pay this premium, let alone $100,000. The attorney immediately said, okay, well then let's go on the next topic. And I said, time out, I have a question, because almost all objections or concerns can be dealt with a question. You just have to know what the right question is. So, dead silence, and I said, I just don't understand, if you can't afford $50,000 or $100,000 now, where's the $2 million going to come when you die? Now, we all know from our sales training that we've got to then put the duct tape on and be quiet and wait for the answer, because if we start talking, we're not allowing the client to have enough time to process what his decision would mean. He then says, everyone's looking at him, I feel like you're ganging up on me. I said, I'm sorry you feel that way, that's not my intent, but what I do know in working with so many women and widows is that it's likely I'm going to be around to have to talk with your wife, and we have to make a decision because I don't want to be the one to say there's not enough money and we've got liquidity problems. I also know the fact that because of all the things you've shared with me, it's extremely important that your wife is taken care of. And I was able to actually cite specific things he had told me in the fact-finding interview over the course of, literally I'd worked with him like 8 or 10 years, that I knew it was very important to him that she was taken care of. We just hadn't been able to get him adequately insured. Again, it was dead silence. The wife's looking at him saying, yeah, aren't you concerned about me? What are you going to do? Well, amazingly, we decided that, yes, he could afford the insurance, and once he was able to accumulate enough money, he was going to get rid of the insurance. Well, the great news is that they still have the insurance. If something does happen to that client, the wife is going to be taken care of. I always find it fascinating because I work with a lot of married couples before I work with the widow. And oftentimes I hear, oh, I don't need more coverage. And yet when I go and deliver that death claim, I have yet to have any woman come and say, I have so much money, I want you to take some of it. Or coming and saying, there's too much. They never. They always say, I wish I would have had more. And it's our job as advisors to know those desires and those needs so intimately that we don't let our clients make decisions that are going to have devastating effects on them. We're now going to discuss the best affluent women niche market for you. Non-traditional women is one option, traditional women is another option, and combination is the third option. Now let's dive a little deeper into each category. Non-traditional affluent women, their personality, they're often doers or drivers. They're analytical. They sometimes are even expressive, but oftentimes they're more analytical or doers. Bottom line decisions, when they make a decision, you're going to know it. If they tell you they're going to go think about it, you've already been fired. Compare that to a traditional woman. If she says she's going to go think about it, she is, and it's oftentimes she will come back and work with you. So let's dive deeper into the non-traditional women. Their occupation is typically executives, CEOs, presidents, and other things that are of important decision making. We know they're doers or analytics. They oftentimes will be tied to charities where the focus is recognition. Now it's interesting because some of my friends who are traditional, homemakers and wives, are on charities with non-traditional women. Their biggest complaint is all they're concerned about is the media attention or what they're going to get. That's how they're getting ahead in their career. It would be abnormal for them not to think that way because especially in a male-dominated market, they've got to. So they're going to be a lot of times associated with things that are going to have to do with recognition. Sometimes they will have their own charity, but a lot of times it's going to be big names. They're going to a lot of times be really into travel, really into fitness. So if you want to get a non-traditional woman's attention, I probably wouldn't send her brownies. I'd probably be sending her a book or sending her something where she was noted in the paper. You've got to know how they think, where they congregate to be able to attract them. Non-traditional women are much more inclined to work with a fee-based advisor. Oftentimes they know more about fees and products than you do. So if you're going to target that market, you just need to know what you're getting into. And it's not that some don't vary because it's a continuum. You have non-traditional on one side, traditional on the other side, and there's extreme. At the extreme level, they would never use a commission advisor. At the extreme level of a traditional woman, it's unlikely that they're going to use somebody that's charging a fee because they're much more inclined to use somebody typically if they don't know what the fee is. Now again, there's exceptions to the rule. Those are just typical. Now let's talk about traditional affluent women. Their personality. They're amiable and they're almost always married to a driver or a doer, somebody who's bottom line and making decisions. And if you think about it logically, obviously somebody who's a driver or a doer that makes decisions, they're going to have to be married to an amiable personality because no one else can get along with their personality. So it's common. It would be abnormal for two drivers to be married. It would be a very, very difficult relationship because you would never know who's in charge. Now, on occasion, you do see them married, and what you'll find is that he handles this, she handles that, and there's very little overlap. So again, just be aware of that. It oftentimes appears that her husband makes the decision. And in a meeting, it will always be that it looks like he makes the decision. But I will tell you, behind closed doors, it's a very different thing. If he says, I like this advisor, I want to work with him, and they leave and she says, I don't like the advisor, he knows that if he makes the decision to work with that advisor and it doesn't work out, he's going to hear about it every day for the rest of his life. So he's going to think that through. One of my good friends, a friend through a friend, they were flown out to meet a huge money manager. And this manager has probably one of the best track records of anyone in the industry. He immediately connected with her husband, talked a lot about performance, talked a lot about beta, talked a lot about what he could do. The husband loved him. The traditional wife couldn't stand him. I will not use the description she gave me, but I will say that she said within 5 minutes, she had made the decision her husband wouldn't use him. Now, what was interesting about this is that it wasn't her money. It was his money. She married into it. But because she felt so strongly about it, they didn't use this advisor. She said, how can he manage our money? He might have this great track record. He might have the best product. He doesn't know anything about me or my family. How could anyone give us advice if they don't know that? So if you're working with a driver male and a traditional female, you've got to take the time to listen to her about her kids, about her family, about her concerns. And typically what you'll find is about the first 30 minutes to an hour, that's all she'll do is talk about that. Now, a lot of driver advisors want to immediately get to business. You cannot have that approach when it comes to a traditional woman. Some of the largest brokerage firms have retention ratios of only 2% when the husband dies, meaning 98% of women are firing their advisor. It's for this reason. And people always say, well, why do they do that? We find that there's a 90% hiring or firing within 1 year of the death of the spouse. But the reason is to say, that wasn't my advisor, that was my husband's advisor. And if you're not connecting with these women at a heart level, it's very, very likely that you will be fired when they die. So make sure and do whatever you can to cultivate them and to create a relationship with them. When you do your lunch and learns, which are your monthly workshops to bring your clients together and to create a community, I encourage you to ask the wives of your clients. What are their interests? Not just relating to finances, but relating to, they might have interests as far as in cosmetic dentistry. They might have interests in relating to shopping. I interviewed Don Wilkinson for the Affluent Summit this year, and he shared a story that just exemplified this perfectly. There were 2 family offices. This couple had sold their company for multi-millions, 8 figures. I don't know if it was 30 million or 50 million, but it was a large number. They went out to meet the different advisors. The first one they went into, the advisor immediately started talking about alpha and beta and looking at his track record, and the wife kind of went into sleep mode. She said, "Is there any place I can go and shop?" And he goes, "Yeah, go ask my secretary. She can show you." She went out there and said, "I just think I'm going to go shopping." She goes, "Okay, you can go down to the mall. It's down there." Pointed her in the direction. She left. The husband stayed there to talk business. The next day they went to the next advisor. Very different experience. They were immediately greeted by 2 people. One was a relationship manager and one was the advisor. And they said, "What we'd like to offer you, ma'am, is an opportunity to come and meet with me and learn some of the services we provide for our clients. Personal shopping, dog groomers, you name it, they had it, concierge services." So here's this woman is taken into a room, very, very different experience. The husband had a very similar experience. He was taken into a room and they talked a lot about alpha and beta, what they could do for him. They both then connected at the end of the day. What advisor do you think she decided to work with? And he decided to work with? Yes, the advisor that met their needs. Now, in the second scenario, had the woman said, "Well, I'm really interested in learning about alpha and beta," fine, she could have attended. But what they did, which is critical, is they asked the question, "Would you like to come in and meet with the relationship manager, or do you want to go and learn about all the technical aspects?" She got to make a choice. And when it comes to working with women, you're going to be a lot more successful if you can take the time to really find out how they feel, what they want, and then deliver it to them. It's actually very easy. It's just a matter of that you've got to stop doing what you want to do and start doing what they want you to do. When the spouse dies, it's very common for the traditional wife to fire the advisor. And especially the advisors who are not connecting with them, the advisors who are doing business how they want to do business and not determining how the women want to be treated. When you know what motivates the woman, which is oftentimes her kids, her grandkids, traveling, and you really take the time to ask, "By the way, how is your granddaughter Gracie doing?" That's going to go so much further for you in your advisory business than anything you can ask about the finances. But again, you've got to be sensitive. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a very good reason. It's so that we listen twice as much as we talk. And when it comes to women, you've got to listen. A lot of times I hear from women, it's a matter of, "I never felt like he was listening to me. He was always telling me what to do." So we've got to get into that mode of asking questions and finding out, how do they truly feel? What motivates them? Interestingly enough, when you do a really good job of this and then you're doing your annual questionnaire at the end of the year where you're saying, "Tell me about how we did," you'll find that between 50 to 60% of your clients will say the best investment decision they've ever made is you. Early in my career, I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm not an investment." And what they'll say is, "You have done so much more for me than just my money. You have helped me in so many different aspects of my life." When you hear a client saying that, you know they're not going to fire you. So traditional affluent women, their occupation, their wives, their moms, their homemakers, and that's their priority. When you look at where they're going, they're oftentimes at churches, they're at PTO meetings, they're at functions that connect kids with their function as a wife. And interestingly enough, you oftentimes can even find traditional women that maybe couldn't have children or chose not to. What takes the place of children in that case are their animals. And I will tell you, you had better be as sensitive to their animals as you can be. We have had numerous situations where attorneys and advisors have been fired because the woman is talking about the plans for what they're going to do for their animal and the fact that whoever's going to care for them is going to get $50,000 a year, and they've had attorneys say, "Are you crazy? You're going to leave somebody $50,000 a year to take care of your dog? Bye-bye, new advisor." We have had women, and we still have women, that come in our office, bring their dog. They're like, "Do you want to leave them in the car?" "Yeah, right." You don't ever say no, and it doesn't matter to me. I'm glad they're there. They treat that dog like it's a baby. One of my assistants came and got their dog because the dog was so cute, said, "Can I hold it?" And about 10 minutes later, she goes, "I need to go check on my dog." What do you know? She went and got the dog just like a person would have done if they had a baby, brought it, and that dog was between the baby position and on the shoulder the entire meeting. You've got to take it seriously because, some advisors are going, "Oh, brother." You can have that attitude, but just know that if you do have that attitude, it's very unlikely you're going to continue keeping that client. And when you're talking with these women, you've got to be focusing in on the things that are important to them. If you start talking to them a lot about finances, it's very unlikely they're going to hire you, and it's very unlikely that you're going to even have a long conversation. You've got to ask about their family, ask about their friends, ask about their church, and really have an interest in listening. That's the secret to these women. So the next type of affluent women are combination women, and these are actually my favorite because they have a combination between career and homemakers. They have kids, they have husbands, but they've got a balance in their life. Now, there's not a right or a wrong. Some people love working with women that everything's their career, and some love working with everything as their kids. There's not a right or a wrong. What I find, the reason I like it is because I can relate to them. I know what it's like to juggle balls, to run a company, and to also have a priority of my family. And so I have something in common with them. And I find that for me that works. What you've got to do is find in your practice what works for you. Interestingly enough about combination women is one of the things you've got to identify is where do they fall on the spectrum? Are they more non-traditional or are they more traditional? If they're more non-traditional, they are going to attend a business function over their kids' baseball games. Now for me, that's very hard because I am so I don't ever miss my kids' games. I make it a priority. Now I don't always go to all their practices, but I rarely ever will miss a function. So I'm not as good at relating to that. However, you've got to understand that. Now on the flip side, you'll have some of them that aren't meeting their career goals, but everything is focused on their family. And they're even though they look like a combination, in reality they're just a traditional woman, but they need to work because they need to make money. So what you've got to do is find the combination that works for you. For me, I like the ones where it's more balanced and they can make decisions, but they do have that different scenario in their life, meaning it's not everything's one or the other. It's something where everything's not their kids, everything's not their career, and I find them just more well-rounded. But again, you've got to look at what works for you. I have advisors that I work with who would never work with a traditional woman, never. They love working with non-traditional women, and they love quick decisions, and they're very successful at it. So again, there's not a right or a wrong. You've just got to look at your personality and make sure it's compatible. So combination women's personality, they're oftentimes expressive drivers, but they have an amiable quality. You can't typically be a really great mom or wife if you're not somewhat amiable, if you don't have that heart connection where you're really concerned about your spouse, really concerned about your kids. And it's not that non-traditional women don't have caring, but a lot of times they're much more bottom line. They will fire you in a heartbeat if you're not performing, whereas somebody that's more amiable is really going to think twice before they fire you. And one thing that's great about women is rarely will women other than extreme non-traditionals fire you for performance. And if you do get fired by, say, a traditional woman or combination woman, it's because you're not providing the best options to their family. So say you're selling products, you can sell a product very easily to a traditional woman. If you're not looking at the big picture about what she needs to do to protect her family and her loved ones, and an advisor comes in behind you that is, she'll fire you in a heartbeat because her entire focus is making sure that her loved ones are taken care of. As compared to a non-traditional woman, she'll fire you. She doesn't really care about all that. She cares about bottom line. So again, it's not a right or a wrong. Just look at what works for you. Occupations for combination women. They combine wife and career and mom. And it is a juggling act. They're very busy. So they're going to try to combine charity events with business events. You're going to see them multitasking. You're going to see them juggling balls. If you're an advisor to them, one of the most important things you can do is be really organized because they've got a lot going on. And interestingly enough, they congregate with women that are like that. And so people will say, do you want to have lunch? No, but I'd meet you down at the park and we can talk there while our kids are playing. So they combine the two because they don't have the luxury of having all the time to meet for coffee. Yeah, let's get a coffee and go down and do something with our kids. They're combining it, and that's the beauty of it, is that if you get good at that, you can really target that. And it can be effective for men too. People always say, can men work with women? 50% of the advisors that are in my life transition training are men. And I will tell you, some of the men, in my opinion, I would work with over some of the women. Just because some of the women are just so bottom line, and I won't say they were somewhat abrasive. And it works with their personality. They're great advisors, but they don't sit and chat and carry on the conversation like I like to. So again, it's not a right or a wrong, but it's identifying what works for you, and more importantly, what's going to work with you and your client. So just be really clear on that, because if you are more amiable and more analytic, and you're working with somebody who's a bottom line driver, they're going to come across to you as abrasive, they're going to come across to you as short, and you're going to feel like take it all personally. So you've got to make sure that you're clear on that. We're now going to talk about setting niche marketing goals. A lot of times as advisors, we have this great plan, we want to work with women, or maybe we already are, but we don't take the time to create a plan. I think one thing that is so missing in our industry, and it's been missing for the 22 years that I've been an advisor, is there's not a lot of areas where they teach us how to create a plan that's simple and workable. So the first thing you want to do in your Affluent Women niche marketing plan is to identify your ideal affluent women client. What does she look like? What does she do? Where does she go? When you're conducting your Ask, Learn, Riches questionnaire, you're going to find those things out. That's why you want to dive as deep as you can into those questionnaires, because they're going to tell you information you would never even think of. I found out that a lot of my ideal clients were volunteering down at this homeless shelter. Oh, amazing. What do? You then start volunteering down there. You can go to a function where your ideal clients are, ideal prospects are, do more business in a month than you could do in 10 years sitting in your office. So find out where they go and then go meet them. It's kind of like fishing. I don't know if anyone here is a fisherman. My dad was an avid fisherman, and it always amazed me because typically you look down in a creek and you can see fish. We'd go to Beaver Creek out where our cabin was in South Dakota, and there were no fish. But what he would do is he'd go to this little nook in it, and he would put his fishing pole in, and he would scoot over to the side. He would have his limit, my husband's limit, everyone's limit caught within an hour. He went to where the fish are. That's what you have to do when you're targeting anyone you're targeting. You go where they are. If you do this and you follow this process, whether it's women or whatever niche it is, you will have a line of people waiting to do business with you. Instead, what most advisors do is they're running after people. And when you're running after people, instead of them coming to you, what ends up happening is they're running away from you. You want them to be coming towards you. You want them to be raising their hand saying, I love this information, I want more. So much easier, and it's such a better way to begin your relationship with that client. So once you've looked at the type of ideal affluent women you want to work with, the next step is to determine the number of affluent women you want to work with. Most advisors choose too high of a number. And the reason they choose too high of a number is because they do not realize that if they would get all the business, they could have less clients. So they've got this huge number because they're only getting a fraction of the business. If you become a lot better at follow-up and a lot better at research and a lot better at delivering what your clients want, it doesn't matter because you're not going to need to have 1,000 clients. In fact, I can't even imagine what it'd be like to serve 1,000 clients, because you want to be focusing in on women that have some money and then focusing in on getting all their business, and then you don't have to have this huge number of clients. The next step is to determine the average annual income you make from the client or the couple, because this then allows you to determine your ratios of determining how many clients you have, how much you're making, and what's your total revenue. And you can back into it. But the key is you've got to know that number first so that you know how many you need to be targeting and when you're 50% towards your goal, 75%, and then ideal 100%. You also want to know the value per referral. And a lot of people fail miserably when it comes to referrals. But if you really get good at referrals, I can actually do tree lines where I've gotten affluent women in my feeder workshops, one worth 20 million. She refers me to another woman that's worth 3 million. She refers me to another one that's worth 2.5 million. I can go through this tree line to where literally a half a dozen or even a dozen clients are referred back to one referrer source. That's the power. But the key is some people say, well, I have clients, they don't refer to me. Couple of things you can do in that venue. The first thing you've got to do is you've got to find out, what do they like? What do they want? Where do they spend their social time? I know that my affluent women, a lot of them love art, a lot of them love fine wine, a lot of them love travel. Now, some topics are very controversial. Alcohol is, religion is, so you want to make sure before you go and do a wine tasting that you really have people that want to do wine. I interviewed Richard Weilman for the Affluent Summit. He said one of his friends was firing his advisor, $8 million account, because the advisor kept inviting him to wine tasting. And it wasn't that it bothered him that he was inviting him to wine tasting. What bothered him is that he told him, I'm not interested, I don't drink, but he kept inviting him. See, if you go and you find this out about somebody that they say, I don't drink, I don't believe in it, possibly, you've got to listen to them and then not offer that, because if you do offer it, what you're going to have are clients that are going to say, this person's not listening to me, I'm going to find an advisor that is listening to me. But once you find out what your clients love, then what you can do is you can start doing fun things where you go to the art festival, where you go to the Monet art exhibit, and you do things that resonate with them. It's nothing about business, but it's everything about business. And you can connect with people and their friends on a much deeper level. We're now going to talk about some strategies to connect with affluent women, and this is where the fun begins. The first thing we're going to discuss is pinging, then birthday marketing, special events, follow-up, and the follow-up is going to include email, telephone, cards, and we're going to talk about relationship cards and referral cards. Now, in the follow-up section, we don't have a ton of time, so I'm just going to dive in a little bit right now as far as email and telephone, and then we'll go through some of the other strategies. It's absolutely critical that your follow-up include online as well as offline strategies. I encourage you, if you're using email, to get to know your prospect and your client, and more importantly, get their permission before you start using it. You do not want to be dabbed as spamming people, because they'll shut you down faster than you can say boo. And you don't want to be annoying people. You want to be providing them value. So make sure in your Ask, Learn, Riches, you're asking them, how do you want to be contacted? Interestingly enough, with women, some of the older women are very, very savvy when it comes to email and the internet. Other ones don't even have an email account. So what you've got to do is you've got to have a system where you can identify what they have, how they want information, so that you're delivering it to them. Now, telephone is ideal. If you're not able to meet them one-on-one, telephone is the next best option. But because we have limited time, there's only so many calls you can make. That's why I encourage you to start a relationship marketing campaign that includes both online and offline strategies. In Keith Ferrazzi's book, Never Eat Alone, he says, if 80% of success, as Woody Allen once said, is just showing up, then 80% of building and maintaining relationships is just staying in touch. I call it pinging. It's a quick, casual greeting and can be done in a number of creative ways. I call it relationship pinging. So the key with pinging is to make sure that you're not just connecting with them from a financial perspective, but also that you're deepening that relationship. Keith Ferrazzi also says in his book, the most important day for a lot of people are their birthday. My personal favorite pinging occasion remains birthdays, the neglected stepchild of life's celebrated moments. It's your day, and it has been since you were a kid. And even when you're 70 years old, deep down inside, despite all the protestations, a little recognition of that 70-year-old life feels good, even if you don't get the big red wagon. Don't kid yourself. Everybody cares about their birthday. Now, I think you need to do more than just a birthday card. For top clients, you want to send them a birthday card and a gift. And for my real top clients, we always take them to lunch or have a birthday celebration. Birthday parties are a great way to clone clients. And what you do is you just basically say, we're going to have a little gathering. It can be in your office with a birthday cake. It can be a birthday lunch. It can be a birthday breakfast. I actually got a really good size account, probably over 2.5 million, because the woman said, who is that woman with all your friends? Oh, that's my financial advisor. She had a little gathering for me and a couple of my friends. She goes, wow, I don't even get a birthday card from my advisor. Literally, that's all it took for her to change advisors. So you've got to make sure that you're really connecting with people on important days, birthday being one of them. Another great strategy is anniversary strategy. And an anniversary pinging strategy consists of remembering your clients when they became your client. So you send a simple note to your client, "Dear Judy, thank you for your business. We've been working together now for over 15 years. I appreciate you and your business. Thank you." Simple. You will get a call and they'll say, "Wow, that's so nice. I've been working with you longer than I've been married." It's amazing the impact that can happen when you let people know how long they've been working with you. You just remind them of it. Very powerful. The due diligence meeting. I can remember in my career, I was invited to probably the 4th top producer meeting in 1 year. And I said to my local wholesaler, "I can't do it. I don't have the time. I'm no longer interested. I was no longer motivated to go to another top producer meeting, eat food that makes you feel bloated, and sleep in a hotel bed. Can't do it." And he said, "You're missing the point. There is a huge opportunity as far as business when you go to due diligence meetings." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "What you do is you go to the meeting and you write out, 'Hi, dear client, I'm at ABC due diligence meeting and I have some great ideas I want to discuss with you when I return. Please call my assistant to schedule an appointment.'" If you don't have an assistant, then you can have them call and leave a message. But ideally, you want to have an assistant. Do you know my appointments would be booked for 3 to 4 weeks after I went to a due diligence meeting? Now we've automated the process. So what we do is we take a beautiful picture of whatever we can in the town, upload it, we send this out to our top clients. We get back from the due diligence meeting, and again, we just have literally appointments lined up. Due diligence meetings are a very effective way to connect with clients and to make the most of your due diligence meeting. The next strategy we're going to discuss is Affluent Women campaigns. These are very effective. I like to alternate between relationship marketing cards and referral cards. And one of the best cards that we've had amazing success with is a picture of a little nurse, and it said, "It's time for your checkup." You then open it up and it says, "It's time for your financial checkup." Just like you have a medical checkup, you need a financial checkup. We have had amazing responses from that. So what you want to do in your campaigns is you first of all want to find out what your clients want. You want to connect with them, and you want to connect them to where some of them are financial topics, some of them are social topics, some of them think outside the box. That's going to get you the best strategies when it comes to your campaign. The next strategy we're going to talk about is shelf life strategy. I travel a lot, and a lot of my clients love to travel. Some of them are too old to travel, so they live vicariously through me and my travels. This particular picture is of me and my family. We're in Puerto Vallarta. And again, you've got to be careful what you say. The reason I say this is because I know my clients are going to laugh at it. But it's basically me saying, "What a great family." My husband saying, "My wife is so great." My kids are saying, "When can we eat?" And my daughter's saying, "Why can't I have a margarita?" Now, I wouldn't say that unless I knew my clients. But I tried sending this card. I did a test run, and I sent it with nothing on it, and then I sent it with bubbles on it. I had people that were talking about it 6 months later. It was hysterical. Again, you don't want to overdo the relationship marketing, but you want to connect with them and you want to have fun. Another great shelf life strategy with women, because with women it's easy to create shelf life. If you have a picture of you and your affluent women, a lot of times she'll keep that picture forever. Now, if she's married, make sure the husband's included if you're a male advisor. But if you're a woman advisor, you can be just you and her. She'll keep it forever. You'll go to the house, and that picture of you from 15 years ago when you had the hairdo that's no longer popular will still be on that credenza. So be prepared. But it's very effective. People, who's that? It's my financial advisor. This strategy here is where you can actually upload pictures on billboards of churches. And it's just basically a tool, but you can basically say happy birthday and then your client's name. Well, you're not really doing that, but they get the card and they go, "Oh my gosh, how much did that cost? I can't believe you did it." Very, very effective, and we have done that for years. Another great strategy is Let's Do Lunch. Now, this is very effective with non-traditional women, and it's simply a card that says Let's Do Lunch, and you basically introduce yourself, explain what you do, and explain you want to sit down with them, learn more about them, and have a nice lunch. It's that simple. You're not trying to sell them anything, you're trying to learn something. Now, it's critical when you do meet with them that you then take the time to ask them questions and learn about them. I personally would never try to close on that meeting. All I would try to do is get more information and learn more about them. We love referrals. This card is great, and what's great about it, it's got little hearts on it saying we love referrals. You can buy those same hearts that you can stick on pieces of mail you mail out. We've done that for years. Very, very effective. I'm expanding my business and I'm looking for clients just like you. What you've got to know on this is you've got to know all the ideal client traits your client has so that you can ensure that it's included there. So when somebody hears that, they know right away if it's somebody you're interested in. The one thing I encourage you to do is don't include income or net worth, because a lot of times people don't know, and if you put that in there, they're going to say, well, I don't know what Mary's net worth is. I don't know if her income is, and they're not going to refer them to you. You want to get in front of the person or talk with the person, and you do that qualification. But as far as other things, some of their beliefs, some of their values, some of the things they do, those things are very effective to include in there. Now, one of the things I want to talk about, as you shift your focus to working with affluent women, what you're going to be much more focused in on is really learning about women, really learning about every aspect of them. I recently, one of my friends, I've been a friend with this woman now for a few years. We go to yoga together. We go to dinner with her and her husband. I knew she was very successful. You could just tell that. But I had no idea how successful. We went to a party at her house, and I'm like, wow, she lives in a compound. My focus wasn't on, can I get this woman as a client? I mean, she's a friend of mine, and I don't know that I'll ever work with her. She actually had approached me to handle her insurance, and I'm like, well, I don't really do just insurance. But the interesting point is that when you're really interested in getting to know a person on a deep level and talking with them and becoming their friend, you become very tied into them. It's much easier to do business with them than when all you're focused in on is, can I sell them another product? If you want to be successful with women, you've got to make their needs, their desires, your burning desires to achieve, not your goals. And women can tell it much more than men, in my opinion, if your only focus is to sell them a product. So take some time to have some fun with the process. Use your creative juices. And know that there are so many women out there that need to be served by good quality advisors. And if you are inclined to do this, you can really achieve anything you want to. Now, I want to tell you about a special educational offer that's available through NAIFA. I have 2 products that are available through NAIFA members. My first one is the Marketing Guide for Affluent Women. This one includes the introduction, creating a foundation to working with affluent women, your blueprint for success, choosing the right niche market, opportunities that are available working with affluent women, choosing your affluent women niche market, your ideal client profile, your $1 million financial database. This product retails for $997, but NAIFA has negotiated a special price of only $397, a significant savings for their members. And this is for advisors who already have determined that affluent women is a market they want to target, and it's a little more in-depth training. We have probably about a dozen additional bonus training courses included in this that allows you to really find out how to market to women effectively. So that's the first option, and that, if you want more information, you can go to www.budurl.com/MGAW. And you can see that on your screen. The other option is my introductory course is Grow Your Business Working with Affluent Women. This is an overview. It teaches you the basic concepts of the different types of women. A lot of what we discussed today, but we go deeper into it. Where do they congregate? Specific places you can find them. How they think. What investing decisions they're going to make. So if you're still not sure you want to work with women, or you just want to make sure you're not missing the boat with women, this is a great introductory course. And you're going to learn how to determine which group to work with, how to use the Ask, Learn, Riches, how to learn which affluent women are going to buy from you and which ones are going to never buy from you, how to find them, how to choose the best strategies to work with them. This product retails for $197, but NAIFA has negotiated a special price for you to bring it to $147. If you're interested in this product, you can go to www.budurl.com/AW overview. Again, that's AW overview. This is Annette Bow. It's been such a pleasure to be able to share a little bit of information to you about working with a group that I have so much passion for, affluent women. I hope everyone that's listening to this really does take it to heart and go out and really make sure you're serving the affluent women and the couples you currently are working with, because they really need to have great advisors. Thank you.
Thank you for participating in this program. For more information regarding products, programs, services, and other NAIFA member benefits, visit www.naifa.org.